starting point of my talk tonight is actually something that Mike Edson addressed a few days ago when he said, are we speaking to the choir or are we trying to get converts? And my guess is that we're speaking to the choir. Most of the people watching on live stream or in the audience truly believe in sustainability. They truly believe in interoperability of data and open access. And you know, when you look at grant funding bodies and that sort of thing, they stress interoperability and stress open access. And the amazing truth is that interoperability and open access and sustainability are still things that we are trying to achieve. Very few resources achieve this goal. And I wondered why this was. And I thought to myself that it might be because there is no clear idea in the humanities of what sustainable data, interoperable data, really usable data should actually look like. So I wanted to talk about what it might look like, and there's a couple of projects that I've been involved in where it is. Digital data can look extraordinarily like real data, and that's part of the problem. So this is a chained library in Hereford Cathedral, England. And this is an unchained library that you can access from your desktop, but you can open the books and turn the pages in the same way. This is just one manifestation of the data, and my point is that it's not actually the most usable, sustainable way of presenting the data. So what does really sustainable, useful data look like? Well, everybody tells you that you shouldn't, but actually your data should suck. It should be sustainable, it should be usable, it should be complete, and it should be known. That is, it should be out there. And how do you make it look like that? And this is what I came up with. A useful book is on the left. It's called the Archimedes Palimpsest. And it's a truly useful book. On the right is the very boring-looking data set. And my point is that these images don't look the same at all, that the data is in completely different form from the book. And yet I think that that data is the data in which one might think about presenting the form in which one might think about presenting your resources. Now, the purpose of the owner of the Palimpsest, who sponsored this project to create this data, he wanted to take something that was unknown and make it known. He wanted to take something that was fragile and make it safe, something that was unique and make it ubiquitous, something that was inaccessible and make it accessible on your desktops for absolutely free, and walk away, so that it was cultural heritage for everybody to use at no cost. And that's what we came up with. Now, I didn't think, in my naivety, that this was very accessible data. So I got the wonderful people at Myth to make me an interface so that people could use this data. And I thought that this would be the interface that would last. It is a great interface. It's now a liability for me. I have to maintain it. Meanwhile, a guy called Greg Etchelberger at MIT just took the data and created his own interface. And he did the text with it too. I didn't ask him to do this. I don't pay him to do this. He just did it. And my data set is there, and somebody else has taken it and used it. And he's taken on, and I'm not taking on the cost of looking after this data. And that's the power of truly open data. So we applied this model to the Walters Art Museum and its manuscripts when I was curator there. And first of all, the S. It should be sustainable. So now, when you think about sustainability, one way of doing it is raising money. But you can never make enough money to sustain your data. So the thing you've really got to think about is making it cheap to maintain. It's got to be cheap to maintain. It's got to be, the interface for this data has got to be really, it's got to last. So it's got to be very simple and very straightforward. It's just basically got to be flat files. And we put up all our data in flat files. It costs us about there's about 1.5 terabytes of data. It costs us $2,000 a year to maintain. Now, as a proportion of a budget of a non-profit organization, $2,000 is really nothing. The U of suck. So it should be usable. So it should be well documented. Just like a published book, you need to know who the author is. You need to know what the ISBN is. You need to know the metadata about your data set. The other thing is, it absolutely has to be free. Another thing is that people should just be able to take it. And another thing is that they should use it for any purpose that they want. So with our data set, we have a README file. And with the README file, we have various things that go through it. The most important thing is the licensing. When we did this, we published it under a Creative Commons non-commercial license. Now the Walters has bravely gone for a straightforward 3.0 license, so you can actually make money out of this data if you want, which is great. We tell you how to cite it. We tell you who the sponsors are. We tell you something about the data set as a whole. We tell you the metadata standards that we use. We tell you the directory structure and how you can download the entire data set if you want to by syncing it with a couple of keystrokes. And we tell you who was responsible for the data. It should be complete, your data. And by complete, this is the C of suck, you should have full resolution. You should be able to have full resolution. The data at which at the time of capture, that should be the data that you show and you give to the public. You can have derivatives as an option, makes it usable. All the descriptive metadata that you attach to this object, it should be out there for free, and all the technical metadata as well. That's because data is its own original. I mean, so, you know, it's just like when you have a book. You want as much of the data around that original thing as you can. Okay, and to the K, it should be known. Now, certainly on our data set, we had a discovery layer. We have a discovery layer, a very basic HTML discovery layer. So that's our online catalog of manuscripts. For any given manuscripts, you can browse all the images. And you can browse all the images, and you can download them at 1,200 dpi or as a thumbnail. But it's all the images. You don't even have to speak English to get this data. It can be read by machines. All our raw XML is up there as well. And it can also be read by traditional scholars and actual human beings, because we have a style sheet and we put the XML together with the images, and we create an illustrated catalog. Okay, but to really make your data set known, you don't just put versions of it on your website. You get it onto everybody else's, and for free. What you want to do is you've got sexy data, right? You've got special collections data. You want to make it promiscuous. You want to get it everywhere. And Flickr is a fine, fine, fine way to do this. The Walters Art Museum has a wonderful website, you know, and it is about the 487,562nd most popular website in the United States. And I'm not joking, that's quite high. But Flickr is the 35th. So if you want to advertise your data set, for goodness sake, stick it up on Flickr. It's a wonderful tool for presenting special collections images, and it's beautiful, and it's free. Actually, it cost me $25 because I went for the pro version so that I could look at the statistics. This is a snapshot of my mobile phone. I've got a mobile app. This mobile app for this data cost me $4.50 because I got Flickr Pro on my iPhone. It's a really great interface. It looks great on an iPad as well. And I'm very glad to say that other projects like eCodices have joined us on Flickr. It's essentially a union visual catalog, as long as your tagging is good enough, and the Walters tagging and the eCodices tagging is quite good enough. And people start curating the data. They curate it in small ways on Flickr. There's a man who put together Ottoman atlases from all over the place and incorporated ours. This is my favorite one. This is a guy called Marvin92. Marvin92 wanted to put together a gallery of things that he considered Muslim. And he's got 16 things on Flickr. He put up the Taj Mahal, and he put up a map from the Walters Art Museum that no one had ever seen before, properly credited to the Walters Art Museum. And my old institution was very interested in branding. This is fantastic branding, people. I mean, it's fantastic branding. And in terms of outreach, you know, I don't know much about Marvin92 because there's no photo of him, but these are photos of some of his friends. And I tell you what, he's not like me. And our mission was to bring art and people together for enjoyment, discovery, and learning. And at this point, I think that we're beginning to get there. The great thing about Flickr, unlike your institutional website, is that it's very easy to tweet from, it's very easy to blog from, it's the touch of a button. This is one of my favorite images. It comes from a 13th century Psalter Hours. A scribe has copied down the text, he's missed a line, he's put it at the bottom, and an artist has come along, he's pulling it up with a rope, and he's getting a guy to stick it in the right place. That's a 13th century joke, and when you understand a 13th century joke in another culture, then you begin to understand a 700-year-old culture. I know this because it took me about 10 years to understand an American joke. You tweet it, it gets retweeted, and in 3 days you get 2,296 views. Where I work now, we have a wonderful thing, just to make the point that this is not just about statistics. At special collections at UPenn, we have something called the Penn Provenance Project, which is also on Flickr. And we have got all book plates, inscriptions, that sort of thing that we're crowdsourcing information to. This is Ex Libris RH. We don't know who RH is, but our cataloger tweeted, "Who is the owner of the steamy book plate?" And Sarah Werner tweets back and says, "This is it, Robert Hottop, designed by Andre Rouvier." And we found out something about his book plate. This is a rather lovely one. Belongs to Eduardo Giaristi, Havana, Cuba. Someone writes, "Hey, that's my grandfather. Who owns this book?" And so we say, "Well, it belongs to UPenn." And then he says, "Well, here is the story. My grandfather was a graduate of Penn in the 1930s and went back to Cuba. He must have left the book in his dorm. P.S. My daughter is now applying to Penn. Do you think she can see this book?" But this is what makes history living, and this is what makes history alive. And you know, just a simple thing like Flickr and putting your data there is an incredibly powerful thing. Now, blogging is something that's very easy to do from Flickr. But what you want to do, of course, the sign of success is not to blog your own stuff. The sign of success is when other people are blogging your stuff. Muslim Matters blog our stuff, and they have images of the week. And the image that I'm not showing on the top is of a Walters Art Museum Quran, but I'm clearly reaching a new audience, and that's why I focus on the image of the people at prayer there. And it's not just Muslims that do this, it's Christians that do this. This is cool Christian dating sites. And a cool Christian dating image from our Handbook of Christian Love from the 15th century. I mean, we're really contributing, I think, to the iconography of Christian love. But it ranges the whole gamut, you know. Because it's not just people really contributing to knowledge on this kind of level and influencing how people think and what resources they have too, but on a very high academic level as well. The Digital Mappamundi project, sponsored by the Mellon, they use our data. Shared Canvas, again, sponsored by the Mellon, which is a transcription tool. They use our data. And they use our data because it's under a Creative Commons license, and it's totally free, and it's full resolution. Individual people use our data. Porter is a digital humanist from the University of Indiana. And if you want to see the Walters Art Museum's manuscripts now in their best light, you don't actually go to the Walters Art Museum. You go to Porter, who wrote the code to live stream our images from our archival site into a Internet Archive book reader. She wrote the code to do that, and it's a fantastic tool just for reading the manuscripts. Of course, any interface that you provide for your manuscripts or for your special collections is value loaded. It's going to be good at some things and bad at others. So this is really good if you want to get a sense of the book and reading through the book. It's not very good if you want to do an iconographic search on it. So the other thing that Porter did was to provide, using Amico, to provide an iconographic searchable catalog of all our data. T-Pen. Out of the University of St. Louis. They use our site. This is a crowdsourcing thing for transcribing medieval manuscripts. And by the way, the digital revolution has the potential to make manuscripts and printed book a level playing field. The one reason why it still isn't is because texts aren't searchable in medieval manuscripts. So our great job is to be transcribing and crowdsource the transcriptions. Over the next few years. OCR is going to get better, it's going to do a lot, but it's also going to be a great group effort from undergraduates, graduates, and their professors, and the general public to do this. And you know, if you create assets that anyone can do with what they want, and they are culturally significant assets, they are going to adopt those assets of cultural heritage objects, and they are going to look after them themselves. And one of the fantastic things about this project is that, you know, the Walters Art Museum is a museum, and it's a rather small museum, so it's not the place to, and it's good at looking after real things. How good is it at looking after digital things? Well, it hasn't got the resources of Ivy League universities. So Stanford University have just taken all our data, and they are dark archiving it, and they are pushing it out for anyone to use. And, you know, if someone says what my sustainability plan is for this data, I say, well, A, it's $2,000 a year, but B, I've got conservation backup copies at Stanford University for absolutely free. Fantastically generous of them on the one hand, but on the other hand, I've given them, or the Walters Art Museum has given them 300 medieval manuscripts of astonishing beauty for absolutely free, and they can do exactly what they want with them. Of course they're going to look after them. Oh, and the secret of survival for digital assets is exactly the same as the secret of survival for ancient text, by the way. What you want to do is copy your data. You want copies, copies, copies. So what's in it for the user if you present your data like this? Well, if you can think of something that I haven't provided, I really want to know, and then I'll go and provide it. What's in it for the institution? You know, what's in it for the institution is recognition. Here you go. I took this snap about an hour ago of my desktop. I did an image search for illuminated manuscript gospels. Now, there are some very famous gospels in the world. You will have heard of them. The Book of Kells, that's second on the list. There's the Lindisfarne Gospels. That looks like it's about 20th on the list. But 17 of those images, coming up on an image search in Google, 17 of those images, including the first one, which is a rather modest Carolingian Gospel book, come from the Walters Art Museum. Because this data is being used, and because it's searchable, and by the way, exactly the same is true of Qurans. There are great Qurans in the world, and the Walters Art Museum has some fine examples. But 24 of the 28 images that come up first in a Google search come from my institution. Now, why do people go to museums? One of the reasons that people go to museums is because they know what's already there. Why do people go to the Louvre? They go to see the Mona Lisa. Why do they go to see the Mona Lisa? Because they've seen images of her absolutely everywhere. And if people aren't coming to your institution and you want to raise the profile of your institution, then what you want to do is to release these digital assets under a Creative Commons license at full resolution without any restriction at all, because what they do is act as a fantastic advert for the original, and they don't take any of the aura away from it at all. In fact, rather the opposite. Thank you very much.
you.